All right. Good evening and welcome everyone to the H2OBX RV Resort and Water Park presentation presented by Beyonder Holdings. My name is Adam Lundy. I'm one of the founding partners of Beyonder Holdings. We've got a group of us here this evening presenting this opportunity to you. We're going to take a moment in a few minutes here just to introduce ourselves, and then we're going to introduce this opportunity tonight for you. This is one that I'm personally very excited about. This is a property I got to visit last year, had an opportunity to actually go to this operating water park that is ripe for expansion, and it's ready to have an RV resort opened on its property. So we'll be presenting this to you here this evening. We're gonna, as people filter in, it's okay, this is recorded, so if you did miss the beginning, you'll be able to go back and watch this a little bit later. We'll be sending this out later, but we're gonna start off with a video showing the existing water park today that we are adding an RV resort to.
Could have narrated the flyover, Adam.
I could have, yeah. I didn't have a script prepared for that, though, Ken.
Yeah, I could have done that. I should have done that.
That's all right. Well, very good. So, you know, as of course mentioned, this, once I can move forward here, pardon me, having some technical challenges now. There we go. All right. Well, very good. So this opportunity is in the Outer Banks, North Carolina market. This is a tremendous water park, if I must say so myself. I'm going to introduce you to the gentleman who envisioned this and saw it through to its production and ultimately has seen it through its growth to its next phase as it's prepared to add an RV resort to its offering. Like I said, I had a chance to go see this property last year, was absolutely blown away by the actual site itself, the location, the operation. They've got a great management team in running this business right now. They are running a great business out there. It's seen a good amount of growth, and what's going to take it to the next level is providing accommodation on site for those who are using the water park or just visiting this market in general. So we're going to talk more about this exciting opportunity coming up. So tonight's agenda, we've got a lot packed into the next hour. So I want to go through, we're going to introduce you, like I mentioned, of course, to the sponsors, myself, and then, of course, the H2OBX team. We're going to talk a little bit about the Outer Banks market, why we like it, and what we see the opportunity as. We're going to present to you what this water park is and how it has performed to date. We're going to talk about the proposed RV resort opportunity and, of course, what we expect to see the outcomes of that as we move forward. And then we're going to talk to you a little bit about what the construction timeline, the timeline to fund the project looks like, and how you can invest with us if you'd like to come on this journey with us. So to start, I would like to, well, first off, just let you know that this is an opportunity we are only making available to accredited investors. So this will be a private placement offering. This is going to be a 506c offering. So this will require third-party accreditation for any investors who do come on this journey with us. We will have more information in our investor portal, which can be linked at the end of the presentation. We'll have a QR code on there. You can also get it from us directly. So we'll have a follow-up email after the webinar when we send the recording out, where we'll give you that information as well. I'd like to introduce who is sponsoring this project. I'm going to start with the H2OBX team we have with us tonight, Ken Ellis. Ken has quite the background, and I'm going to let him explain a little bit about himself, where he's come from, and what's led him to this project today. So Ken, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you everybody for taking the time to take a listen. As he said, my name's Ken Ellis. I've been in the water park recreation industry my entire life. I'm sitting in an office in Albany, New York, of a company called Aquatic Development Group, ADG. I'm the CEO and owner, and it was started about 55 years ago. We're designers and builders of water parks and water attractions around the North America and around the world. Over that time frame, we've completed close to 3,000 or 4,000 projects, close to $1 billion. If you've been to a water park, whether it be indoor or outdoor, anywhere in North America, you've probably touched or played on something that we had something to do with. We manufacture wave generation equipment. We make flow rider surf systems. We're designers, planners, and builders. So that is a business that I've been in for 38 years. Still in it, still active in it. We have quite a few projects ongoing now. We've done probably 8 or 10 water park projects for Six Flags and as a client name that you would know, and a lot of projects down in Orlando. The background to how we got, so there's the design, build, planning side, right? So how did I get to own on the ownership side, on the hospitality side? In 2005, my partner at H2OBX on the screen there, Art Berry, Art and I have known each other since the early 80s and got into a business venture in 2005. We purchased Camelback Resort, which is in the Poconos in Pennsylvania. It's about an hour and a half out of New York City. And at the time, it was a ski area, and it had an outdoor water park, Camel Beach, that I had built for the previous owners. And we took over ownership of in 2005, and for the next 15 years, grew and developed that property from $27 million in revenue to, in the end of 2019, $110 million. We built an adventure park. We built a snow tubing hill. We developed a 450-room hotel with an indoor water park, and grew the visits from about 500,000 to over 1.5 million. So there's how we got into the operation and ownership of water parks, as well as designing and building in the resort field. During that period, in 2015 and 16, is where we came up with the concept to build this water park down in the Outer Banks, which, as we get into the presentation, we can speak a little more about, that specific project. Opened up in 2017. We were fortunate, or I guess lucky, to some degree. In 2019, a couple people approached us about selling Camelback, which we had no intention of, but we did, and then COVID hit. So it was good timing, but the resort is still there and going strong. H2OX was not part of that deal, so my partner and I have owned and operated it since its inception in 2017. I met about a year ago, I met Adam, and we'll get into the story a little bit, but there's not any RV resorts down in the Outer Banks, and there hasn't been a new RV resort built in 30 years because they weren't allowed. Regulations didn't allow that development. It's all vacation homes. But 2 years ago, the county, Currituck County, passed legislation and to allow new RV resort development, but not on the Outer Banks, off the Outer Banks. And we said, geez, that makes a lot of sense for us. We had extra land, we had the amenity, we had this major project. What do we know about the RV resort business? So in the last year, 12 to 18 months, we did a lot of research. We interviewed a lot of companies would be the right partner for us, that knows the RV resort business, that can help us develop this in conjunction with our existing water park. And besides their Beyonders track record and just the relationship that I've gotten to know Adam and Justin and Don, my partner and I, we're 60 years old, and we got in business together, 20 years ago. And we were young and energetic and did a lot of good things. And when I looked at Adam and Justin, I saw, hey, look, there's two guys that are good friends, 40 years old, in business together, jumped into this industry, and looking to grow it to the next level. So it just seemed to fit, right, Adam? And once I took you down there, you saw it, and you're like, I think my poker face is gone, I think is what you said, right? And I go, this place is great.
That's it, Ken. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that. Yeah, really great introduction, and really a storied career you got. Justin and I think aspire to be as successful as you and Art have been in your business ventures, and would like, obviously, appreciate the opportunity to follow in your mentorship as we move along. So for those joining us tonight who aren't familiar with Beyonder Holdings, I'll give you kind of a brief introduction. The story is very much like Ken mentioned, a couple of friends who got into business together, and that's how Justin and I began Beyonder. We had a passion for camping. We were two camping families. We were actually on a camping trip, or I should say technically we were on a houseboat trip that was also a camping trip. But nevertheless, when we envisioned Beyonder and what it is today, and had this idea of building our own network of campgrounds and building a model that really fit what we were looking for, which for us was family-friendly campgrounds. We're both have young kids. We have daughters and sons that are about the same age, and at the time our kids were a lot younger. They're now teenagers and preteen, but nevertheless, we want to go to campgrounds that have fun amenities, that are family-friendly, that have a lot to do, that really provide a next level experience. So that was what kicked off Beyonder. This is about 5 years ago when we launched Beyonder and began, purchasing our first campgrounds. With the support of a lot of our family, friends, and investors. We've certainly learned a lot of lessons along the way, but sometimes fortuitous opportunities are put in front of you. And it was about a year ago, like Ken mentioned, we were working on a project. It was a ground-up development project on an RV resort that we were in the Midwest, and we saw a great opportunity for a water park. Now, this opportunity never ended up coming to fruition. There were some other feasibility reasons it didn't happen. But in that, while I was looking for a water park developer, I stumbled across ADG, understanding they were the biggest water park developer in the country. And through one of Ken's team members, was able to actually meet Ken and really spin this relationship off. Ken invited me out to visit H2OBX last year. I took the trip out. And as he mentioned, yeah, my poker face fell off pretty darn quick. I got on site on the property, and I was blown away just by the massive scale of this operation and how well it was being run despite its size. I've got family actually in a tertiary market from here in Virginia, and they knew H2OBX. In fact, told me that they were driving the extra hour to get there with their kids, versus the ones that are right near them in Virginia. So this water park came, with a recommendation from my family. And when I got on site, I saw the same vision Ken had, which was, for the RV resort and its integration into this property. So we're really excited to talk more about this opportunity as we move forward.
The interesting thing, Adam, is that in the last a couple of years, ADG, we've built mini water parks for two RV resorts, one in Ohio, one out on Cape Cod, another one under contract. So, RV resorts are a whole new segment of our business. They're adding water, right? It's the #1 recreational sport in the country, right? So water sells, water attracts families. So
That's right. Well, in our business, water parks are becoming a staple within the water park. People are
exactly
looking
right.
for
That's
the next
exactly
level
right.
attraction. And
Yeah.
for us in the camping world, we're looking for reasons to get people to stay longer and to spend more money while they're on site.
Right.
Well, very good. So we'll dive into the opportunity tonight. I've got an agenda we're going to work through. This investor presentation is available in our investor portal for download, so you can look through this. We will not be going through everything. This is information dense. We're going to be hitting some of the higher points as we move through. So we'll walk you through what the property looks like. This is a great aerial shot and a mock-up that has been done to show, more or less, this is actually not geographically accurate now that I look at it, but more or less what an RV resort could look like with the water park that's in play. So we are going to walk through the market, the demographics. We are going to talk about the water park itself. We're going to talk about the project, like I mentioned, and then, of course, more important, we're going to get into the opportunity ahead, where you, our investor partners and friends, come in. So we'll start with the market. This is something that, as Ken mentioned, he saw the opportunity in out here. I had an opportunity years ago to visit Outer Banks. I knew this is a special market, so my ears perked up when I heard about it. But Ken, what specifically about Outer Banks?
Well, someone asked Art and I to come take a look at an opportunity to maybe do a water park down there, because they're not any, for one, it's not like a Myrtle Beach or a New Jersey Shore where there's water parks and amusement parks and attractions. There's not a lot for people to do on the Outer Banks. They go there because the beach is beautiful. It's a 5 point night. It's almost 5.5 a day average stay. It's family driven, and it's a drive-to destination. There's the nearest airport's Norfolk, which is about an hour and 45 minutes from the Outer Banks. There's about 120 to 130,000 new tourists that come to the Outer Banks every week during the summer. And then actually they've now extended to where they're running occupancy at their rental houses in the 50-60% in October, November, and March and April. So the season's extended. It's a drive-to, and 80% of that market comes from the north. And if you come from the north, you have to go down Route 158, which goes right by our property. The Outer Banks attract people from Pennsylvania. I mean, Pennsylvania and New York are large destinations for the Outer Banks, let alone Maryland and Virginia and Washington. So we are attracted because there's a captive market. They come there for 5 to 6 days. There's not a lot of attractions, and we should be able to just do very well just with the tourists, not even trying to think about the drive-to market. So that was what really drew us there. The one thing that if there was one concern that people said to us when we went to build this, they said, well, you're not on the beach, you're on the mainland. I said, I know, but we're only 3 miles from the bridge. Really, how bad, it's a bridge. It's people are right there. So we kind of, oh, here it is right here. So, the Wright Memorial Bridge, 80% of the Outer Banks tourists and traffic comes from the north. They come right down 158. Our little H2OBX is 3 miles from the bridge. And then you're right in the center of the Outer Banks, Kitty Hawk, where flying was invented. I said, how bad can the bridge be? Yes, on Saturday and Sunday, there's traffic, but during the week, there's not. So we moved ahead. For one, there's no land on the Outer Banks to build a water park. Two, they wouldn't let you build a water park on the Outer Banks. And this seemed like the right alternative in the right spot. So that's how we got to that spot, Adam. And we bought 55, we bought close to 90 acres, and we have about 55 that is unused that we'll see here in a little bit for this development.
Yeah, and Ken, we were talking just the other day about one of the benefits that came actually from this location as it related to storms and hurricanes in the area, because that was, of course, a concern we had initially too, looking at this was, what's the chance that this gets mowed over with a hurricane?
It's amazing how, we've been there, knock on wood. We opened in 2017, so what, 8 years? We couldn't open during COVID, so we've had eight operating seasons, and there's been some big storms come up there and big wind, but being that far back, it really provides a buffer and a protection. Knock on wood, we haven't had any issues with that. We have not had any flooding. We can get insurance, for the property much more affordable than if we were out on the beach. So it has not been an issue.
Very good. Well, good. So moving forward into the water park, as I mentioned, of course, the tremendous water park. And of course, I would expect that from one of the biggest water park developers in the country. So this is what excites me about this project is we aren't just looking at an experimental ground up, RV resort that, we really have to lean heavily on a feasibility study for. We've got an audience here. We've got an
Yeah,
audience.
and we're not also an RV resort that's adding a $2 to $3 million water area, right? This was built as a major destination. And it's a known area. And we built it as a resort style water park, higher end, a lot of cabanas. We have 55 cabanas. We do $1 million in cabana rentals throughout the season. We have the highest per cap. So people spend money when they're in the Outer Banks. We have a $55 per cap, $56 per cap from admission to food and beverage. But we built this park, as you can see, we spent about $46.5 million. We built land, soft costs. We had to build our own wastewater treatment plant for $3.5 million. It's a major, major destination. On the left, you can see the capacity analysis. We built this park to be able to hold 225 to 250,000 visits a season, which means to do that, we need a park that can hold 3,500 people at one time. And you'll see at the bottom of that page, our park capacity, instantaneous capacity, we call it. So if you froze everybody in the park and they're the people in the line and people on a lounge chair, we can handle 3,500 people. As you'll see in a little bit, we average about 1,800 to 2,200 people. We've been attracting 150 to 160,000 visits, far below the expectation of 250. Now, we also thought that 250 would be about a $40 per cap, and we're at 55. So we're making it up in revenue to some degree. And honestly, it's much better guest experience when you have, more people spending money and less people in the park. But, and this is the but, and we'll talk about it. The bridge was a deterrent, much more so than we thought. Of the 150,000 visitors, 60% are tourists, 40% are drive-to people. So the tourists are still coming, but only about 5 to 6%. We said, geez, if we can get 15% of the tourist market, which is not very a high bar, we can do 220, 30,000 visits. They get to the Outer Banks and they look at the ocean, and they don't look west until they come home. So the bridge has become the big hindrance to what our expectations were. So now, for the first few years, okay, how are we going to do that? How are we going to grow the water park business? We marketed to the drive-to market. We grew attendance, but we're kind of capped where we are in the market we're in. Then all of a sudden, this whole concept of RV resort with the county came about. And now, allowing a new development, and you'll see the development, we have received our zoning and we're in the final stages of approval. The development comes with a 5-mile protection radius. In other words, there can't be another RV resort within 5 miles. They won't approve it. We're 3 miles to the bridge. The bridge is now our friend. We're right there. So we now are will be the closest RV development that's been built in 30 years to the Outer Banks. There's a lot of public access on the beach. You can go to the Wright Memorial Bridge. You can take a day trip over to see the wild horses. You can do all that from our location and from our RV resort. The other thing is that we built a park to do 3,500 people. We're doing 2,000 people. Okay, July, August, we're sold out. We got 248 sites, 4 people per site. We have 1,000 people. Say 300 of them go to the beach. There's 700 that want to go to the water park. We have the capacity. It's already there. We don't have to add to the water park to accommodate their guest and their experience. So now the bridge has become a friend. Adam?
Great introduction to that, Ken. Yeah, absolutely. And For us on our side, with as investors, we see the opportunity. We have a stabilized water park. We know what the water park has done and what its growth has looked like year to year. So the only opportunity from this point is going to be the extra upside that's
Of
brought
the
by the
thing.
additional
And just
traffic.
before you get off that slide,
Yep.
well, you can look at the top right corner. It is a major water park. We have two wave pools, the big family wave pool, 30,000 square feet in that right corner, and then a kids wave pool in front of the play structure. We have a 1,400-foot lazy river. We have two major slide towers, two family raft rides, a flow rider surf machine, three food outlets, a bar, all these amenities that can be used. We operate 10 to 6 now. Well, we'll probably operate 10 to 8 or 10 to 9 when the RV resort's there, because even if the guest did something else that day, they're going to come back and eat and enjoy the park later on. So go ahead, Adam. Sorry.
Oh, very good, Ken. Yeah, please. So a couple more shots and a map of the facility. I actually could have transitioned to this while Ken was talking there. So,
Yep.
all right, very, very good. As we move forward, so Ken was talking. You were talking a little bit about the water park's performance,
Yeah.
and mentioning it didn't hit the numbers you wanted to.
No. So and you know what? And if we didn't, if the RV resort legislation didn't come around and we weren't able to do that, I'd be wondering, okay, what are we going to do? How are we going to grow that revenue? Right? You know, um, so you can see, I've kind of looked post COVID, 158,000 people per 7.3 revenue. Then we went to 22. 160, we jumped $5-6 in per cap. What COVID did for the industry, it said, why is everybody discounting so much? Why are we giving a good product away? That's what COVID did into the entertainment recreation industry. So we increased per caps and did very strong, 8.2 million in revenue. So what happened in 23 and 24? Well, it is an outdoor water park and it is weather dependent. And we have a 100-day season in this water park. Opens Memorial Day to Labor Day. And in 23, it rained all June. We closed 8 days. We were down 700,000 in revenue in June. We hit budget in July and August, but we couldn't recover. All right, what happened? We did actually raise per cap $3 from 22 to 23, as you can see in that column. What about 23 to 24? 23 to 24, we had a great June. We had a record June, but we had, unfortunately, a string in the end of July, August of some weather where we were shut down 10 days. So we dropped to 140,000 visits. We raised our per cap. So what this is telling us is that we have a water park market that's in the 145 to 165,000 market as its own standalone facility. And that a lot of times in our park at Camelback, we had an outdoor water park up at Camelback, it was Camel Beach. And if we had a rain day, we may do 1,000 people. But and the next day it's perfectly sunny, we could do 8,000 people. Well, that's because the market was 30 million people within an hour drive, right? We were in New York, New Jersey. So what we realize is the market for this water park isn't 220,000 people. As a standalone water park, it's in the 150 to 165 range. But with the RV resort, with captive guests, and that's why this performer then says, okay, we opened the RV resort in 2026 with 248 sites. You'll see from Adam's numbers, we didn't mix, right? Just because you stay at the RV resort doesn't mean you get a free ticket. So even though the investment is in both properties together, this is reflecting in the feasibility study shows how many RV resort guests will buy tickets, discounted tickets, but buy tickets to the water park. And that's what you'll see that growth of revenue up to, close to $11 million. So again, built something too large for a standalone market, perfect for an RV resort with 250 sites.
Yep. And Ken, to the point you made, I think this is a pretty conservative growth in what we'd see in the water park. I believe the feasibility study done showed, or that was done showed even bigger, larger growth than this in just the
It
water park
did,
alone.
well, I took a page off your book. Maybe I was a little optimistic when we built this in 2017. And we don't want to do that again. And when you look at Adam's numbers and his performer for the RV resort, I'm like, Adam, why are you only using 29, 26, and 27% occupancy? The feasibility study said 49%. He goes, because I'd rather be conservative. So I'm on board.
Yep, very good. If we can show strong, compelling performance with, extremely dialed back numbers, then if we actually hit what the expectations of the feasibility are,
Right.
we can really make a return on it. So,
So there's the site plan, right? You can see where the water park sits down in the bottom left. You can see we've set aside about 3 or 4 or 5 acres for water park expansion growth down there. And it doesn't necessarily need to be water park growth, and Adam may speak to that. It's for any activity growth. We may say, you know what? Let's add a ropes course. Let's do a mini golf. Let's do something else that can attract both day visits and RV guests. We've set that aside in the RV resort development. The big green spot in the middle, that's our own wastewater treatment plant, which already has the capacity to absorb the 248 sites. You're probably asking, why isn't it at the end of the site? Well, the last 15 acres on the far right, we didn't own right away. We bought that a year later. And unfortunately, the wastewater treatment plant's in the center.
yeah, very good. And Ken, we just actually discussed this the other day, to your point about, the rain sensitivity of the water park business, that opportunity where whether this was expanded to just water park expansion or a mixture of water park and rainy day activities like the go-karts,
Well,
arcade and
yeah,
golf.
yeah, right. But water parks are fun in the rain. It's just a lot of people, when they hear a rainy forecast, they put it off. But if you're already there, if you're staying at the RV resort and it's cloudy or it's raining, you're going to get 10 times as many slide rides as you would on a busy day, right? So it's you're wet already. So I think that the RV guests will use it either way.
I know a little rain wouldn't keep my kids out.
Right.
All right, very good. So once we take that land and we start projecting what the RV resort looks like on it, this gives a little more picture and clarity. So you can see that area in the middle, of course, was the wastewater treatment plant Ken was just discussing there, where it says spray field. So we are building with some sensitivity to the space needed around that to remove the visual detraction of a wastewater treatment plant and or any smells, which shouldn't necessarily
And
be
it,
an
and,
issue.
and it's a spray field. There aren't any smells. I mean, it's clean water. We irrigate. I mean, so it's just more of just where it's located than anything else.
Exactly. So the the proposed build for this are the orange and the purple areas that you see here. The orange denoting RV sites, the purple is park model cabins, which, as any of our current Beyonder investors know, we're a very large fan of park model cabins. They make a tremendous amount of revenue. They're in very high demand. They're beautiful. You just all you have to do is show up with your food and your clothes. It's nice facility, nice finishes. We got some pictures, sample park models here in the presentation. We'll share with you here shortly. We've got the green area in there, which is the RV resort will have its own set of amenities, which we're going to zoom in on here shortly. So when the water park is closed outside of season, we'll still have amenities in the RV resort to keep it going year round through the winter. So it'll have its own swimming pool, will have its own things to keep people entertained, whether or not they're in the water park. As Ken mentioned, not everybody will necessarily buy tickets to the water park. I think most probably will, but for those that don't, they'll have enough to do there. Or if they want to send the kids to the water park, then parents can stay back and lounge by the adult pool. So we'll zoom in a little bit closer, specifically on those amenities, and just show what the RV resort will have of its own. It'll have its main lodge with check-in. There's planned to have food service in there, a full kitchen, a bar on site, pickleball, just playgrounds, basketball, lots of stuff for families and kids to do. There's golf carts that are going to be on site, rental golf carts. For those who are familiar in RV resorts and campgrounds, are huge, huge rental amenity. Very popular. People like cruising around on them. It gives them a way to get out, see more, be a little more social. In this sense here, with this RV resort, because it will connect to the water park, and there is water park access as denoted by the arrow. It'll give folks a way that they can take a golf cart right down to the entrance of the water park and park there and walk into the RV or into the water park rather and drive back to their site at the end of the day. So we'll have the ability to have rental golf carts on site. There are some opportunities that we are still exploring with a nearby golf course where we may even potentially be able to connect via a trail. There's a lot of things that have to happen to make that happen, but if so, we might have even a connection to a local golf course that could go from the site here as well too. So a lot of really great opportunities that we are exploring right now, but this being our main amenity set just for the campground. As we zoom in a little bit more on that amenity set, this is what we're proposing the buildings will look like. This is early on and has not gone to architecture yet, but is about as close as it's probably going to be. Highlighting what the main camp store and check-in area would look like with the food and beverage service, some of the outdoor games that sit outside that. So again, this would be a year-round facility to operate even when the water park isn't open. These are just some sample pictures, some inspiration as to what some of the amenity set would look like within the RV resort that we'd have available. So again, our focus is on families, making sure that we've got stuff for everybody to do. So having play facilities for the kids, outdoor games to keep the family and kids active. We're big on pets, so making sure we've got a good dog park and dog facility, resort swimming pool, and of course the bar and
With the Outer Banks kind of theme and feel and culture, right? Kind of a little bit of a Margaritaville type approach.
that's right, just without that specific branding. All right,
Correct.
very good. And as I mentioned, of course, too, we are capped on the percentage of sites that can be park model cabins. But that said, we're looking to maximize that opportunity here on this project with 50 park model cabins, which would make 20% of the overall sites. So park model cabin, for those who aren't familiar, it's kind of a hybrid between a cabin and an RV. It's built so it can be mobile, moved around. They can be built a lot more affordably than building a standalone cabin. There's generally not a building permit required because it is considered a vehicle. But these are a lot more than, say, a mobile home. They can be outfitted with some really nice finishes. They're very popular, cozy amenities where you can have usually a loft for your kids to stay in, bedrooms, bathrooms. Very, very high demand, and they usually fetch a very, very high daily rate.
And in the county, just so you know, I mean, it's 20%. They said, you know what, we're open after your 1 or 2 years. If you feel that there's more demand for the cabins, they would easily let us, I'm sure, add more if the demand's there.
I'm sure they wouldn't mind the extra tax revenue.
Right, correct.
All right, very good. So talking about now what it's actually going to take to build a 248 site high-end luxury RV resort that is worthy of being attached to this water park. We've taken a stab at this from a few different angles, making sure that we've got the right finishes that are going to attract the user base we're looking for. And again, for in the RV space, we're targeting the Class A motorhomes, the big diesel pusher motorhomes. If you can get those in, you've won. Because they're going to attract everybody else. People like seeing those in. It gives a vote of confidence knowing that somebody's willing to drive a $500,000 to $1 million vehicle into a campground to go stay there. So making sure that we have good concrete paths from the stand, the right hookups, the right site design, making sure it's easy to get in and out of, that they've got the amenities that they're looking for. This is a pretty large undertaking to build a resort to this level. And really what we've looked at when we've done our own underwrite on this project, and when we looked at the feasibility study that was completed independently on this project, we see the opportunity here. Now, as Ken mentioned, I was very, very conservative at my underwrite because I want to be surprised in the good way, and I want to surprise investors in the good way with a property that performs above our expectations. But what we've looked at to build something like this from a few different construction takeoffs is that we're likely going to be about a $31 million project on this, adding the RV resort on. So we've got a little more detail in the book.
Which includes the land value.
That is including the land value. So we're allocating $6 million for the land that the RV resort would be built on from the project. So that's going to come through some of the finance that we've got a couple paths we're exploring. The one that I can say would be a sure bet, if it would be that we would refinance the existing project. There is maybe an opportunity with the existing group that holds the debt on the property that we could explore this through different means, which would only create actually additional upside for investors. We're looking at, um, the lowest case scenario. If we get the other option, we'll communicate that, but that would be a best case scenario, and it would improve the overall returns on this. But it could also reduce some of the project costs as well too. So right now we're looking at, in the worst case scenario, that we'd be about a 31 million, including the land purchased from the existing property there to build this resort. And that's including all of the finishes, the cabins, and everything else that goes into it, the food and beverage, the whole facility to be fully built out, 248 sites. So this is where Ken, called me out earlier for being maybe a little bit too conservative. As you can see, about the fourth, fifth line down from the top on these year-over-year projections, I use what I consider to be very conservative occupancy numbers. Obviously, year one would be our construction year. That's going to be this 2025 calendar year into the early spring of 2026 before we launch the project. So we would, of course, have 0% occupancy, and the only revenue reflected in 2025 would be the water parks revenue. And that's based on the projections that we shared earlier and that Ken spoke of. Going forward, I projected using a 27% occupancy for year one and then climbing gradually to stabilize at 33% in year five. Now, I use this information, and why 27%? 27%, if you had every weekend sold in a campground, would be the occupancy for the year. If you compare this to hotels, it's generally a little lower occupancy. If you compare it to some other real estate investments like multifamily, it'd be extremely low, for example. So 27%, though, for a lot of the campgrounds that we are usually around, is pretty average. So now we do know this is a destination market. We do know, as Ken mentioned, this is a market where people are traveling from abroad to, and they are spending longer times in this market. So they're not just spending 2 nights like we see in most average campgrounds. We're seeing week-long stays, so sometimes even longer than that. So
And Adam, the thing about the Outer Banks, if people aren't that familiar, is it's really made up of 18 to 20,000 rental homes. And those homes rent from $5,000 to $50,000 a week. And there are a smattering of hotels up and down the Outer Banks. A couple branded hotels, couple old mom and pops, but even like a Hilton Garden Inn, which isn't a high-end hotel, is getting, in season $400 to $500 a night. So there aren't very many affordable places to stay out on the Outer Banks, right? Now, families would get together and rent homes, et cetera. There are a handful of old RV resorts that are a little further south that haven't been touched or improved upon in 15 plus 20 years. So what we're really doing here is providing an affordable, entertainment-rich alternative.
I agree. And one thing I want to highlight on that occupancy too, to follow up on what Ken says. So Ken had a feasibility study completed that I got to view when we first looked at the project, and the occupancy used for year one in that feasibility was 45%. Now, if you know guys who usually do feasibility studies, they're usually conservative. So I would consider that seemed a little high to me, which is why I dialed this back. But this is from somebody who does hospitality and leisure specifically for feasibility. So it's not somebody who does other assets. This is somebody who's focused in the space. Projected a year one operating occupancy of 45% in the RV resort, a year two of 47.5, and 49 by year three. So as you can see from the numbers I've projected here, I've projected extremely low by comparison. However, that said, the returns that we're looking at, even at these numbers that I'm sharing here, really makes this a great investment. So if we perform as well as I projected here, this could be a great opportunity. If we get above that, closer to where the feasibility study is, which is available in the investor portal for your review, it's about a 50-page document. You can go through and look at the data that was used to support this. Then it could be an outstanding opportunity. So I like to underpromise and overdeliver where possible, and that's the goal. That's the mission on this project here, is to make sure that expectations are met and, if possible, of course, exceeded. Before I get into what those income numbers will do to the investment opportunity, I do want to talk a little bit about the timeline moving forward. So as of course, Ken mentioned about 2 years ago is when, or I guess 3 years ago now is when the county passed the new legislation. Ken and Art have since then been working on getting the zoning in place. And we came in, in mid 2024 to begin partnering on this project together. Right now, we're slated to begin construction summer of this year with a projected grand opening for the 2026 season. We've taken a look at this in a couple of different ways and originally looked at doing a phased opening, but ultimately decided it would make the best impression if we were to open the full project, 248 sites, in 2026. And that's what we're going to be targeting right now, is getting the construction underway to have that opening for next camping season. The investment opportunity would start this year and is going to go for 5 years. So we're looking at a 5-year horizon on the project with a planned investor exit in 2030. So of course there is room to move on that, and of course that will come down to what makes sense at that time. We don't know what the future is going to hold. We may be way ahead of schedule, and if it makes sense to exit early and capitalize on a higher IRR, that's a possibility. Or it could make sense to hold on a little longer, and that's going to come down to investor sentiment at the time and where we think the project is, and our suggestion to you. To talk a bit about the opportunity and what this looks like and how we're structuring this. So Beyond Our Holdings is a 40% partner in the project. So we have 40% of not just the RV resort, but the water park and the RV resort combined that we're looking at here. So in the end, we're talking about $76 million in assets when this project's complete, of which Beyond Our Holdings has 40%. Now, Beyond Our Holdings is offering 60%, up to, I should say, 60 to 65% of that ownership to investors who come in. And I do apologize. I realize we have an inversion in this slide here of the ownership percentages. We have a Class A share that's a 65% ownership, a Class B that's a 60% ownership of the Beyond Our Holdings portion of the project. So why two share classes? We have a $100,000 minimum investment on this project, and a $100,000 to $999,999 investment is going to be a Class B share. That's going to be a 6% preferred rate of return and 60% ownership in the GP structure. For those who come in with $1 million or more, we're upping the ownership an extra 5%. So what that's doing is, of course, we're giving up a little bit more of our ownership to either bigger investors or fund-to-fund investors who are coming in. Fund managers are welcome to join us on this project, and we're giving a little bit more of our ownership. But by doing this, what we're not doing is diluting any of the Class B shares. We're keeping the structure and the preferred rate of return even across the board. So it's not going to dilute anybody based on the number of Class A or Class B shares we sell. Based on the return profile we're looking at, is we're seeing in a 5-year hold period a 42% to 43% IRR on the project. So time value of money on this is tremendous. We're making our money as sponsors on the development and of course in the operation as well too. We have backed our normal management fees down from what we've done in campgrounds in the past. Just given the size of the project here, we think it's the right thing to do as we move forward. This is so in the end, of course, with that 42 to 43% IRR, we're expecting that investors, and I apologize, this is not a percentage, but this is an equity multiple. I would see a 2.4 to 2.5x equity multiple on the project at the end of the 5-year period. So we'll have more information about that in the investor portal. And of course, we can answer any questions about the structure, what the involvement can look like on separate calls outside of this. Don will have his availability on a QR code at the end. So if you want to schedule a call with him, I'm happy to answer questions as well too. So as I mentioned, of course, we're looking at a 5-year exit. This is showing you what a 10-year horizon could look like if we were to say exit a year early. Obviously, the time value of money improves. That IRR goes up to 48% if it was a 4th-year exit. The equity multiple is down a little bit just from nature of not holding it for an extra year. But if we extended that out over time, again, that's going to depend on what the market realities are. The potential equity multiple and cash on cash will just improve as time extends. The Class A is a slight improvement over the Class B. Of course, that extra 5% ownership lends itself to a little bit more cash on cash and a little bit higher equity multiple and IRR on the project. So I'm not going to go into the specific numbers today. Like I said, if this is something you'd like to ask Don or I specific questions about, we're happy to jump on a separate call with you and walk through the specifics of what the time horizon of this investment looks like for us. Let's see, I lost my cursor for a sec, apologize. There's more information in the slide deck here, showing some of the comparables in the area. This is actually one thing I'm going to stop on here really quickly, because Ken did mention that there were some other RV parks in the area. And I will say, I drove along the Outer Banks when I was out there visiting Ken last year and looked at some of these. And frankly, and I'm not saying this to be coy, but they're not competition. As Ken mentioned, these are outdated properties. They weren't allowed to be improved by the
Right.
legislation in place at the time. And frankly, they're not even transient campgrounds. These are more long-term resorts. When you go through, these RVs haven't moved in years. They're in place on their site, and they don't have availability for a high volume of people to come through and stay for nights or weeks even. Okay. Uh, there are some additional lands that are potentially available. We aren't currently looking at any land outside the current project, but just showing that if this project really takes off, there may be opportunities for future projects, future expansions.
Yeah, the legislation allows for up to 500 sites. So there is opportunity if, it made sense to grow it from the 248. You can do it, and there's some land.
Very good. All right. I introduced myself. I talked about our team. Don, I didn't give you a chance to introduce yourself earlier. I know it's the end, but do you mind jumping in real quick? And just for those who don't know you, introducing yourself real quick to everybody here.
No problem. Yeah, I figured that, just got to overlook the beginning. We're excited to get into the deal. No problem.
I was a
Yeah,
little
for
bit.
those who don't know me, my name is Don Spafford. I am, a part of the team here with Beyonder Holdings. Basically is to not spend a whole much time on my background, but I handle the investor relations side of things for the Beyonder Holdings. So when you have questions about this deal or anything else we may have for you, I'll be probably the one you'll be end up talking with, and I'll help to share information with you, get on a one-on-one call, and kind of discuss how this can look for you and your portfolio. So yeah, feel free to reach out at the end here to schedule a call with me, and we can discuss more specifics about this deal.
Oh, very good. We introduced Ken and we discussed his partner Art. So yeah, obviously, if we have any additional questions, Ken's got his email if you had anything specific to the water park on there. But I'm also happy to take those questions to Ken. Yeah, and I'm sure Don could do the same
And
too.
if you see on my email, kenny@aquaticgroup.com, if you just go to aquaticgroup.com, that would be my website for ADG. You'll see what that company is all about. And we ADG built the entire water park back in the Outer Banks. So when you were talking about construction and cost and knowledge, I mean, our team would be engaged in that. We know what's going on down there. We know who the contractors are. We design and build water parks that have to get open. So, we're not going to tackle something that's not going to get done on time, on budget, and ready to go.
Good. All right. I want to talk about the timeline now for investors and what this is going to look like. So today commences the opening for soft commits for this opportunity. And what I mean by soft commits is this is you're putting your hand up to us and letting us know that you want to join us on this opportunity. If you hit the QR code on the top to get to our investor portal, or hit the link that we're going to put in the email that comes out with the recording of this webinar, that's going to take you in and allow you to make that first commitment. Let us know that you want to earmark some of this investment opportunity. While we do intend to oversubscribe this opportunity, we are going to be taking money on a first come, first served basis, those first commitments. If we ultimately have to cap the number of investments we take, it's going to be the early ones we give priority to. So if this is a project that excites you, if you've had a chance to look through the book, you've had a chance to talk with Don or I, and you've got all your questions answered, I would encourage you to move quickly on this. In the coming weeks, we're going to be solidifying the private placement memorandum and getting that into the portal so that we can actually solidify, firm up those investments. We'll be able to take your funds through the investor portal. We are going to be calling the funds progressively throughout the year. So they won't all be called additionally or initially when we commence construction. We'll pull it in a couple of batches again on a first come, first served basis. Obviously, the longer you're in, the more preferred return you have accruing for you. So that's going to be, again, another incentive to get in early on, to get into one of the earlier draws that we were making. If you still have questions left to answer, the second QR code below is going to get you a call schedule of investor relations. That'd be Don or myself that you can talk to about this opportunity. If you have questions, it would like more information on the project, I'm happy to have those conversations. We love talking about this stuff and what we do. Again, so July is when we plan to close the fundraise. That's the plan, to have all capital committed at that point. And then we're going to begin calling it throughout the rest of the year through construction until we open in 2026. And then, of course, as mentioned, we are planning our exit in 2030. So after 5 years from commencement. We don't have time for any additional questions today because we are coming up on the top of the hour right now. But that said, if you would like to reach out, you can use the QR codes you see on your screen right now, zap those to get into the portal or to get in touch with Don or I. If you have any other questions, please reach out to us. Please at least signal your commitment in the portal. And we'll reach out to you, of course, to make sure that if we don't already know you or have you in our database, that we can help you get into the portal, get your accreditation started if you haven't done it already. If you do have a third-party accreditation from a CPA or outside source, we can accept it. We'll just have to review it ahead of time. So just work on getting that stuff together for us as well too. But again, relay any questions you have to us. We really are excited about this opportunity. We'd like to have you on this journey with us, and really appreciate your time this evening coming out with us and looking at this exciting opportunity. So Ken, did you have any additional closing remarks you'd like to make before we sign off?
No, I'm excited about it. I've been excited about the Outer Banks, and I think it's just a tremendous opportunity, and I'm excited about the partnership with Beyonder, and let's get this thing going.
Very good. Don, any closing words from you?
No, I feel the same as Ken. I think this is a very exciting opportunity and a very unique investment for people that are looking for something fun and different. Obviously, we want our investors to actually go to a place they can actually have fun at, enjoy it. I mean, this is going to be top notch destination. I myself look forward to taking my family out there. I've never been to the Outer Banks. Now I have a reason to go. So I think it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for people to have fun and enjoy their investment.
Very good. And as I mentioned, of course, if you came late, we will be sending the recording of this out tomorrow. So you will have the full webinar to go back and watch. And we'll have the link, of course, to the portal in there so you can read all the supporting documents. Please go ahead, read that feasibility study, at least take a look at the projections. You can understand when you look at my numbers next to that, what the potential in this opportunity is, and why it, why Ken pointed out that I've really pulled the numbers back quite a bit, and where we could potentially go with this. So again, thank you so much for your time this evening. Have a wonderful evening, and we look forward to working with you soon.
All right. Thanks, everybody.